Corey. And so
Before that, we're going to do a public power minute that Catherine put together, her group put together, and then we'll go to Corey.
Are we ready?
Yes.
We're more ready than we thought we were. We're going to pretend again that you didn't see that.
I'd just love to see it from the beginning.
So as you know, we've been doing these public power moments, both with our employees and here at the Utility Committee, just to kind of talk about some of the things we don't take the time to talk about, but are important to our operations at the utility. Today's is about innovation, and it's also the kickoff of a new ad campaign that you'll be seeing in other places around Lakeland, talking about innovation, which is kind of a hidden thing because most of those innovations are happening with digital and software upgrades, but they make real impacts to our customers. So our goal with this is to be able to show a specific instance where innovation has actually made a difference in a customer or a group of customers' lives. So this is a little story about something that happened a week after Hurricane Ian.
Now I'm going to let you see the whole thing.
That was just smart. You were baiting us.
Yep. It was worth it, right?
So big thank you to David Siebold and the entire substation team that's under Scott Bishop here in Energy Delivery for all the work that they're doing to keep the power flowing.
All right. Thank you. So this is a round out. Tell us about what happened in that moment.
So we had a fault get inside the substation. In this case, it was a critter. And it got in between two buses and would have dropped 3 circuits in all of downtown. So we have automation that's actually monitoring both situations, and when we see the bus go out and the other transformer is capable of carrying it, the bus tie switch closes and picks up the rest of the other side of the transformer. After isolation, so you see a blink, right? So you still see the blink, but because the automation's looking at both sides of the bus and the transformer readings, it knows it's capable of picking it up, it shares the load and it turns the lights right back on. Then we dispatch substation crews, they go into the substation, they find the problem, they make sure it's cleared, and then we switch it all back normal again. No one knows anything.
No one knows. Great job.
It was actually the day after we declared all clear, like, after Irma, it was the day after. We're like, all the lights are back on, and then boom, it would have been downtown out, and that would have been noise. But as a result, no one knew it even happened.
Excellent. All right, so those are big shoes to fill, Corey.
The big shoes to fill. Hey, following up after Catherine. Corey Bush, AGM of Customer Service. Good to have everybody back together. I think we're off 1 month, but we've always got things that we're pursuing and new ways to serve our customers. And this is one I'm going to tell you about this morning. I'm excited about. We actually did a launch the second week in March, so we've already got this up and running, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. So, kiosk, you guys familiar with the payment kiosk we have around town? We're going to talk about that a little bit. Transaction totals and interactions with those kiosks, we've got some numbers. And then the cherry on top is the new retail cash payment. So a little bit of backstory, the kiosk, that program started, it kicked off late in 2015. We've had them in service. They've done a great job for us. It was seen more as a transition piece until we can start adding more ways, which we've done, which is what I'm going to tell you about. This is the pivot point, the starting point to phasing out of those kiosks for several reasons. I'll be able to explain that and answer any questions you guys have on that. But we wouldn't take away one without providing what we feel is a better service. So, next. So again, currently 4 payment kiosks. You guys have seen them probably around town, one right across the street, Gandy Pool, the library in North Lakeland, and then Town Center there on Memorial Boulevard. The locations for them. This is what they look like now if you've seen them. And this ties right in with our process that we're currently going through. We had these wrapped. We had a vendor provide this for us, but basically this is telling the customer that about our retail cash program and the new ways that you can pay and the new services that we're providing. Go ahead. I want to give you some backstory and some numbers of how we've seen activity between the interactions with the customer in the kiosk. I only went back to 20 for several reasons. 2015, it ramped up. It saw its peak about 2018 to 2019, but we've really seen this number kind of taper down and level off 2020. You can see we've got total transactions and total dollars represented there. We're averaging around 1,000 customers a month are using between the 4 kiosks. Some are used more than others. 717 of those are cash transactions. So when you go to a kiosk, you can pay with your credit card for a fee and do some of those things. You'll see our highest dollar amount was $325,000. Last month, through February, we were at about $168,000 in transactions through the kiosk. Next. And if you guys have any questions along the way, feel free to stop. This is total transactions. Or this is just cash transactions, I'm sorry. Again, you'll see the numbers and where they kind of level out as we progress into 2023. Now, the next slide, if you want to go ahead to it, this is kind of the next one. Yeah. Nope. Should be.
One that has the transaction fees.
Yeah, the transaction fees. That's what I'm looking for.
Other way.
We did that.
No, keep going. One more.
There we go. Perfect. Cash transactions fees. Let's talk about that. So the contract with the kiosk service, any transaction under 3,000 transactions a month, we're charged a $1 service fee. The utility is covering that. Customers, if you go to pay through the kiosk, there is a charge that they absorb. The charge that we're being, and it is impacting the utility, and you can see the numbers from 2017 on. It's around an average of $20,000 a year that we're spending on these transactions because we're just not getting the volume to the kiosk. So that set point's not being hit, which is an adverse impact to the utility. Not a huge one, but it is. And then that's going to be the catalyst. Yes, sir.
So this kiosk transaction fee is just the dollar?
Yes.
So that 8,718 transactions happened in 23 to date? Is that what
That's the dollar, the charge fee. Yep.
Yeah, so.
So for
That's off our
23,
averages.
we've paid $8,700 in transaction fees because we haven't hit the 3,000 mark every month. So does that make sense?
Yeah, but if there were 1,000 transactions a month, and that's January, February, March, I don't know how we get to 8,718 in 23.
Well, that's an average of 1,000. 1,000 transactions a month is a rough
Does that
average.
mean we've had 8,700 transactions in the first 3 months?
Is it fiscal year or calendar year? It's fiscal.
This one's fiscal. I'm sure this one's fiscal. Yeah, that
So
one is
it's
fiscal.
not just January, February,
Correct.
March.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
That one's fiscal year. Sorry,
That's all right.
Yes, this is absolutely fiscal year numbers. So the impact is there. We're trying to move on from that, which brings us to the retail cash payment. So this is a new program. We partnered with Kubra. They're a huge partner for the utility. Basically, 60,000 payment locations. You can see the list of retail locations that are going to accept these payments. There's a $1.99 processing fee. If you go to pay your bill, this is going to be for cash transactions only. They're going to charge you $1.99. The utility is going to cover that cost for the first 6 months. immediately reflected in their account. So if you have somebody who is past due on their account or is nearing that cutoff point, they can instantly go to a Walgreens, any of these locations. But, I know there's a ton of Walgreens, CVS, 7-Elevens, Family Dollars in our coverage area that easy access. They can get their milk and bread and they can pay their electric bill. So it's a pretty easy process. It's already showing up on the paper bills. They go in, and I think the next slide represents the bill. They personalized barcode there with their account information. They can take that to the service counter. They ring them in, pay the utility bill, instantly shows up on their account. Now, there's a lot of drivers to this as well. One of them, safety. Okay, do we really need our customers in these locations paying these bills when they can do it at a more convenient and safer place? That was a big one for me. And others, convenience. If they have those locations, which probably are closer to where they are than the 4 kiosk locations, that's another convenience for them. And also, this is going to be the gap. Like I said, that we're not going to do away with these kiosks next month, but we are going to be pushing this retail cash payment out. We've got a marketing plan with Catherine and her team. We've already seen a number of transactions for the retail cash, and we're going to be monitoring that. And as that increases, we can get those 1,000 or so customers to transfer to this payment option. We will be phasing out those kiosks. Kiosks are also an incredible maintenance nightmare. The maintenance is covered by the contract, but it breaks down. You've got customers that are, then upset. They can't make the payment. They got to go to the other one. For whatever reason, we've got to call the subcontractor in to make the repairs. There's not a lot of preventative maintenance that goes on. They basically fix it when they're broke. So it has some holes. Like I said, it was a great program. Good carryover to what we're going to. Also, I want to tell you we've introduced PayPal, Venmo, Apple Pay, and Google Pay, and we're seeing great numbers from those. So we're laying the foundation for convenience for our customers. The cash payments are important to a certain segment of our customer base. We're giving them more access to that. So that's basically what we're doing. We're not trying to, I want to make sure we're clear, we're not trying to pull one service back without replacing it with what we feel is a better service. So we are going to monitor that. So, yes, sir.
So the barcode is, they're there at Walgreens buying other items.
Mm-hmm.
They're there at Dollar General, whatever. So they just scan the barcode, and it's just like another piece of the
It has to be a
purchase.
separate transaction.
It would be a separate transaction?
Yes, sir.
So it's not like.
It's not, it won't be in your total grocery bill.
Yeah.
It is a separate transaction.
Okay, and then the $1.99 is added to our bill for the
We are
merchant to collect?
So
No, it's after 6 months.
after 6 months, it's added to
Theirs.
theirs.
Yeah.
But as a service fee when
Have
they
the
pay.
service fee for
So when
using that
they're
service.
paying, it's whatever, $150 plus $1.99.
And there is a service fee currently at the kiosk.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's
What's that fee today?
$1. It's $1.
Why $1.99 instead of $2?
Because there's a whole, that was a great question. I was questioning why the $1.99 instead of $1. So
I would
a lot of
never-
technologies and linking up to make that transaction happen instantly. So
I'm sure the merchant gets some form of that.
I'm sure there is, and we're going to try to grow that base locally too. We're in talks with Cougar to try, this is kind of their base package of what they have. The good thing about it, we have an influx of utility customers that we know come down and enjoy the Tigers and the spring training and all that, and they go back up north. They can keep their utilities on. And so this is another way they can pay. A lot of these are local to our northern contingent that moves down for the season. So, yes, sir.
So if I'm at home and I hit the QR code, there isn't a QR code, there's just a barcode. If I want to do an Apple Pay or PayPal,
Yes, sir.
I have to open that PayPal and then scan for that barcode?
No, that's a whole separate transaction. I didn't want to get off on too much. I just wanted to mention the
Here's why I think it matters in this conversation.
Okay.
Because if you want real convenience and real safety, stay right in my desk at home.
stay on your phone.
Stay on my phone. So
Correct.
the ability to convert to that utilization is on a long-term basis with the majority of our customers who have a phone.
Correct.
And can would pick up a QR code, could pick up a QR code that is printed in the bill that would take me all the way through the login and be done, and I could get to a spot.
You can answer this. You're playing into my, I love what you're saying, so it's right in my grand plan.
Absolutely agree. One thing that is happening right now is when you get your reminder by text to pay your bill, there's a link there that takes you directly to the place that you can pay your bill, and that's where you can pay with Apple Pay, Venmo, PayPal. Amazon Pay is coming soon, and we also have Google Pay. So we're not quite to the QR code stage, but we do have some integration with your cell phone and the reminders already in place.
If I hit that link, is my next link Apple Pay? Is my next link PayPal?
You do have to log in because we have to confirm that it's you.
So that's my concern, is that cumbersomeness of just the login, and now I have to know my number, or I have to do something. It's a break point. This is a bit, if we're going to make this really easy and we want to convert people, we need to have something that, I'm probably not going to pay a lot of my friends' power bills. So the security is that, people want to pay mine. And so to have something that takes me straight into pay, to me, is something well
So you're speaking my language right now, and that is my ultimate goal. I want to have an app that is ultra convenient for not only reporting outages and reporting streetlights out, but also, hey, it takes you to your bill, here's your balance, here's your, what payment option do you want, it links you up. Now, there are multiple hurdles to jump with logins and sensitive information, and we are weighing those out, okay? We have to weigh the cost benefit of our customer base, who would actually use those items, such as yourself, and who really doesn't care to use them, and because there is a huge cost with providing all those services. It is being looked at.
And you want to have some training, so you would go to our website, and there'd be a little video in there that would tell you exactly how to do
right
this.
through it.
And walk through it, because people will need to make, there's people that can watch a video like that and have to make notes as they go, and that's okay too.
Absolutely. No, that's
And then you
perfect.
can have a print notes feature so that they could actually have that, if they have that, or make a PDF on their phone.
We are just taking the continual steps towards that ultimate goal. Yes, sir. And this is just another process. Obviously we have a customer base that utilizes cash payments. I had a guy talking to me at the store the other day. He was a golf caddy. Cash, the guy makes a lot of cash. He's like, I use it every time. Now they can also go to Amscot. They can also do some other ways.
But it's a way they can get rid of their cash.
Right. Well, yeah. I could see, people in the service industry. They have a lot of tips, and they have their cash heavy. So if that's the way they prefer to pay the bill, we got to have an avenue.
Some lower income folks don't have checking accounts either.
Some don't. We're taking that into consideration.
Some people get direct deposit. They go to an ATM and draw out cash, and they go around and pay their bills.
Well, we have folks that pay with prepaid cards.
Yeah.
You name it. And we want to serve every one of them.
Commissioner Music.
Corey, when we look at the transition from, going down to the building and paying and going through the drive-through and paying, did we stop that and head right into the kiosk? When was that transition? Because my real question is, what did we do? We're adding these efficiencies, which I think is wonderful, and I'm there with the mayor. I mean, I would love to just scan and double click on my phone and be done.
Absolutely.
So I love that we're heading in that direction over time. But I mean, it seems like these kiosks are a bigger burden than they are a use. So, I mean, you are intentionally working to phase these things out. This is part of what we're talking about here.
That's exactly what this conversation is about.
Good, okay.
Now, I don't want to alarm any of our customers, because there are obviously customers that are using them. The goal from today is get the word out that this program is out there, that we're moving forward, and we are going to be watching the data. I'm not yanking kiosks. We want people to have convenience, but if that person can utilize their local store to make their payment instead of going to that kiosk, I'll watch those numbers, and we'll pull those back. We can pull 1, 2, 3. We can leave one in the building. 6 months, 8 months. We've got total flexibility with this whole thing.
Corey, are we going to have something in the stationed at the kiosks that are going to say, hey, we're moving forward with this? this?
That was the first slide.
Okay.
We had them wrapped with
Is that what that
information.
wrapping was? Was that
Yes,
okay? I
sir.
apologize. I
Hey,
didn't notice
retail
that. Okay.
cash, it's right here. Again, all the social media, we're putting a lot of things out there to.
Because when we're looking at where these kiosks is, especially for the cash payers, so that they're walking by these CVSs or
Exactly.
driving by them to get to this kiosk.
adding convenience.
For sure.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
okay, thank you.
Member Tillman?
So if I understand you, at some point, an additional goal might be the app, where you just pay, boom, right on your phone and done. And having worked and implemented that, it's really a great convenience.
Right.
To be able to just, on your own, boom, boom, because you set your account up, and it sees you, and you identify yourself, boom, I know you know that.
Yes, sir.
But that'll be an added convenience, I think, to all of this.
Oh, I 100% agree. My wife, probably more than me, is a huge Amazon customer and a PayPal customer, so it's ultra convenient, boom, and that's ultimately where we want to be. We just got to take the right steps with the right cost.
Yeah, I like the apps, because in there, because you can, some may even, when you get there, provide additional usage information, real-time, all of that.
Exactly.
And,
So we're providing a lot of that through text and email alerts and mid-month and all that, to transition that to an app. It's being, like I said, it's being looked at. We've got a certain demographic, and as we progress, 2 years from now, it's going to look totally different than it is now, so we've got to keep eyes on that. If we feel that that number has jumped, and hey, then we're going to look at it heavier, but it's definitely in the works.
because it can be pricey, but as time goes on, that
Exactly.
goes down. So.
Commissioner Reed?
So we're still going to have the drop box out in front, right?
Dropbox will not be going away, sir.
Because I know we use that a lot because I'm here, and then invariably, we still pay with a check, and I don't pay 51 cents, and I can put about 5 or 6 checks in there at the same time.
There you go.
Because invariably, if we have,
It's a piece of paper. Right.
I saw that in Smithsonian, yeah.
but if you have multiple properties and you pay $1.99 each, it's gonna. I'm only paying $20-something a month, just for nothing, in my opinion.
Yes,
But I can pay 51 cents and be done. Okay.
Yes, sir. That is a popular device down there, more popular than I ever thought.
Yeah,
You don't
I
talk
agree
about
with- I would
getting
agree
away
with
with the Dropbox.
I have to wait in line sometimes.
Thank you, Mayor. Corey, is there, of the 4 kiosks, is there one that's used most, or is there one that is not utilized very much and you can take them offline according to usage?
I think the way the numbers peeled out, the one here at the admin building was used the most. I think the least was Town Center. The least was actually Kelly Brett.
Yeah, I would guess so. I didn't even know it was there.
Yeah, it's just right next to the parking lot between the pool and the rec center.
And the other two were
Hey, I've totally
sprinkled in
missed that.
between, so that's what we're looking at. Hey, if we just eliminate this one, but
Makes sense.
I guess, remember Trout.
Following up on Chad's question, is there a number that you wanted those other ones to get to before you offline them? Is it have to be to 0? Is it?
No, it doesn't have to be to 0. I think if we'll probably look at it at a percentage base and a decrease and go from there. Because again, this program's already up and running, and it's functioning. There's interaction with it, so we'll kind of see that grow. Our goal is for it to naturally just progress down as it has. I showed in the graphs, it's kind of leveled off. I think we've got the personnel that are using it that we've got. We can naturally see them transaction off, and we'll just make that move as needed.
Remember Tillman?
Just going along with what Bill's talking about, with somebody who has multiple properties, I would expect that as you go forward, be able to link all those together. So, for instance, if you have an app, you can say, okay, I'm going to pay all of these, or I'm going to click this one, go down 4, click that, be able to isolate where you want to go through that as we get the generations out.
Correct.
Okay.
We would like to have all accounts linked to
A master.
your
To a
login.
master or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I would think that would be good too. And internally, you track people who use kiosks, correct, by name, by account?
We have that information.
So you could get to a 200 or 300 and really
Reach out to them.
reach out to that group.
That's been discussed.
Because so many times that is just I don't know what else to do. It's what I'm comfortable having done.
People get in their routines, and I'm one of them. They go here, they make their bill, they pay their bill the third Tuesday of whatever. No matter what it is, they're at that kiosk.
Routines are healthy.
No, I believe it.
Get older, they get more frequent.
Commissioner Music.
Corey, is there a municipality out there that you guys can look at as kind of the pinnacle that we look and say, boy, they've really implemented a lot of these things? I know city staff has done such a good job, and Sean has gone to these cities and said, man, this is where we want to head. Are we seeing some of that out there? Are we?
My honest answer, we are. Lakeland's on the cutting edge of
Are we good?
a lot of these things. My son's he's a student at UCF, so I pay his electric bill every month. And I love a lot of the technologies they're utilizing, and I love their at-home call center reps if I need them. So I look not just only at municipalities, I guess is my answer. When we compare to TECO, we've been in some conversations with TECO. We do a lot of things far more advanced than they are, even at their size. So I love that I call and Duke knows my phone number, registered my account, and it's a 2-minute interaction where I'm entering my saved credit card or a new card, and I'm out. And that's what a majority of the folks want.
Well, I appreciate you guys doing that, because that, we don't need to recreate the wheel.
Right, exactly.
To learn from others and what they've spent and done.
Exactly. And Kubra, they work with utilities across the country. They're a wealth of knowledge to help us navigate that as well.
Yeah, and I think that really speaks to the whole purpose of this. The purpose of this conversion is to take away what's cost ineffective while increasing convenience and safety for customers who want to be kiosk-oriented, while moving then and transitioning to ways to make it even more efficient and less costly. So you have this 6-month period of time where we pick up the fee, but in that period of time, we could also learn how to be able to do something linking through the existing systems, and then on a longer-term basis, we do things that make it a one-step double-click.
It's my goal to come back to you guys periodically with progressions. If I'm stagnant, I'm not doing my job, and we need to be up and out with the old, in with the new type stuff, not in a negative way, but in a progressive way for convenience and security and everything else. So,
Further questions or comments on this? I think we probably pretty much exhausted this one.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to share?
I think that's it. Thank you for your time. Thank you, guys.
So the other thing I wanted to mention before we go into the contracts, on the table there, those boxes, we had 2 successful implosion events that brought Unit 3, a good part of Unit 3 down, and some of the rubble, a little piece of concrete, was involved at Catherine's group and put that inside of a clear cube, kind of like a paperweight. So that's what's in that box. So I wanted each of you to have a piece of the past, so to speak. We continue to work on the RICE project, building the RICE engines, and all of our contracts today have to do with that. So we didn't have anything else prepared to present. We obviously will answer any questions about anything. There's a ton of stuff we know going on in the utility industry right now. We will have some pretty meaty presentations coming up in the future. Next time we anticipate doing an update on the RICE project, a very in-depth update at the next utility committee meeting. But today, we would plan to move right into the contracts unless somebody has any questions of a more general nature.
Commissioner Reed.
Thank you. Again, on your little boxing, I want to appreciate y'all sending me an extra one. I had Dan McIntosh lived across the street from me, and he had 3 sons and only one living now. And I called him up and I sent him one, and I thought that really appreciated that.
Thank you. That's really cool. Thanks for doing that, Bill.
Good job. Seeing no other questions, let's go to contracts.
All right, as Mike said, this is the RICE project show with regard to contracts today. The first agreement that we have is an agreement with Rayco Industrial. If you'll recall, the commission approved an agreement back in March of 2022 for the design and prefabrication of the buildings, and that agreement was with Patterson Horth. There were 2 buildings, one building which will house the 6 engines, and then the other building which will house all the electrical components, the motor control center, and the batteries, and all the other equipment for the RICE project. So we're at the point now where those prefab buildings are on the prefab, are on site, so now we're asking for approval to enter into a contract with Rayco, which will do all the installation of the buildings on the project site. The city went out issued a bid in January of this year. We only actually received one bid response, and that was from Rayco. City staff evaluated that bid and along with its consulting engineer, Sargent and Lundy, and determined that Rayco was perfectly qualified to complete the work based on the schedule, their response, their experience, and the technical knowledge that they had to do this. Based on the total cost, their initial bid price was $2,029,818. However, in addition to what was contained in the bid were also some options that the city could choose to add to that bid. And those options included installation of the roof, the south wall, west wall siding, liner, and insulation. So we opted to add those to the total cost, which brought the base bid then to $2,307,218. That is being funded as part of the whole RICE project and through the city's issuance of the revenue bond that's already in place. So we anticipate that a purchase order would be issued for the work that would begin in April and anticipated to be completed in July of 2023.
I guess, I'll ask a question. Does the insulation that's inside the building, is that heat or is it also sound reducing?
Both.
Okay.
Both, mostly sound.
Mostly sound, so it's thicker than normal.
Yes, yes, very thick. The walls are roughly 12 inches, and then the roof also has insulation on it that is also sticking. Out at the laydown yard for the plant right now, like Ramona had mentioned, we have all this equipment laying on the ground. We really don't want to go through another hurricane season with it laying on the ground. We'd rather have the buildings up. Not to mention the fact that it will actually build the environment to where climate weather won't affect us during the rest of the building because we'll be indoors. A large portion of that is insulation we currently have covered with tarps.
Yeah, you want that dry.
And we want to get it in the buildings. How can we want to do that? But
this also includes putting the end on after the engines are in?
no, so that'll be handled by the above-ground contractor. That's part of their scope. So, like Ramona said, this will be the electrical equipment building complete.
Okay.
So the housing for the control system and the switchgear will be complete. The engine hall will be the southwest wall and the roof. And that'll leave the north wall and the east wall off. The reason why we're leaving the north wall off is because, there's all the penetrations for the intake, the exhaust, and the other piping that has to go through there. And it's going to be better served by not having that in until you have those components in. And then obviously the east wall is removed, so that's how we jack and slide the engines in.
How do you risk not having that building torqued in a hurricane until the walls are all up? Based on the building design and how we have it and the structural steel that we're going to have in there, we feel the risk will be minimal, but that's definitely one of those things that is an issue to us. It's high motivation to get done.
Absolutely.
Tornado would do it anyway.
Yeah, a tornado wouldn't matter, but yeah, the hurricane, luckily the winds are typically from the south for us. And so we'll have that.
Commissioner Reed.
When will we finish the slab?
Slabs are finished.
I know you're quit beating the pylons in now. I can tell that.
You can tell that from home.
Today we made our last pour. The last pour was a stanchion by the thermal tank. The above-ground contractor has some additional pours to do.
That's awesome.
But we're completely done with the below-ground concrete.
24 inches thick?
No. The engine hall itself is 3.5 feet.
Okay.
Where the engines are actually sitting, the apron around that's just a foot. The SCR pads are in, the stack pads are in. They're up there almost 4 feet deep. The radiators are, that pads, like I said, they're all done. We're ready to receive and put the equipment. If you drive down East Lake Parker, if you look over the coal yard, that's our stacks, SCRs, silencers, and we have a bunch of C cans out there. We have The next big shipment that we get is second week in April, we'll be receiving the structural steel that MAN's provided for the interior of the building, and that's coming from Greece, and that'll show up on the 14th. And then we'll pretty much have the lion's share of the stuff from MAN, exception of the engines and generators and the control system. The gas reducing skid is produced in Houston, and we're actually holding it off until we have a contractor that come and lift it right in place and put it right on the slab.
Committee Member Hamilton.
I hate to see a single source bid for a $2 million project. That may be due to particular expertise or longevity with us or and so on. Do we have a sense that the bid is reasonable, given that we don't have a basis to compare?
We do. We actually had 4 people that showed up at the pre-bid, and 2 of them dropped out just because they couldn't get the staff and the experience to get up there. Another company, Steelworks, which is actually a preferred builder for Patterson-Horth, they said they would bid it. They were going to bid it. And then what happened was they had other jobs that took up that they didn't have the resources to complete in our time frame. And obviously, off the record, they told us that their bid was in excess of what Rayco's was. When we compared it to what the bids that we have on the above ground packages that we're reviewing right now, because these are, the engine hall is not complete, okay, we're in the same ballpark. We're seeing $3 million for complete for the buildings, and that's with the interior lights and things like that there. So we believe it to be very reasonable.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that's a great question, and thank you for asking it. Any other questions or comments? All right, is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
In a second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Unanimously passes.
The next item that we have is an agreement with Distrans Steel. This is for the purchase of a transmission line dead-end structure and protection mask. The dead-end structure allows the placement of the disconnect switch to locally isolate the plant from the transmission line. And the mast is providing lightning protection above the plant side substation that connects to the step-up transformer. The city's purchasing department issued a bid in February of 2023. We received 3 responses to that bid. The low bidder, Metal Pole, is outside of Mexico. Unfortunately, the low bid, which came in at $27,478.38, that bid was not complete. The contractor didn't respond to some of the required terms and conditions and failed to actually bid the mass structure component of the project as well. So the second low bidder upon evaluation was Distrans Steel. They came in with an initial bid price of $49,534, but they were deemed to be the most responsible bidder with the lowest price. I would say that when they submitted their bid pricing, that was only valid for a 10-day period, and we've talked about this, how materials increase in costs. So that we had to get updated bid pricing, which actually brought the cost to $59,717, and looking at the other bid that was submitted by Valmont was still more expensive. So ultimately, Distran was still the lowest, most responsible bidder. The structures are scheduled to be delivered in November of this year. Distran is going to design, manufacture, and ship the equipment for the total cost of $59,717. And this is also approved as part of the RISE project bonding as well.
All right, is there a motion to approve? So moved, and a second. All right, in discussion.
Distran, we've done business with them before, right? I've seen that name come through before on other contracts.
We've had other contracts.
So they're not an unknown.
That's correct.
They're very responsive.
That's right. We've also purchased from Metapole before, but the last time we purchased through Metapole, they went through Annexer. And when we're dealing with Metapole directly, they've just been very unresponsive. They sent me their insurance in Spanish. I couldn't get a copy. I couldn't get them to respond to T's and C's. I couldn't get, it was...
Makes you wish you'd studied more in school, too.
Yes.
Well, Distran's from my mother-in-law's hometown, so every time I see Pineville, Louisiana.
The opposite end.
Help the economy.
The opposite end dead end structure, we actually bought from Valmont. And it's actually on site for the Ten Rock substation, and it's already on site, and substation crews were working to schedule that and get that set up. Distrans right in there, and like I said, it became a numbers game for the cost.
Is that $10,000 because of not having a utility committee meeting last month?
No, that $10,000.
I'm feeling a lot of
The $10,000 was, like Ramona said, it was the 10 days, and by the time I got done fooling around with Metal Pole, and I contacted them about, hey, can you hold this your price? Can you give me an update? Literally, it was for the 2.5 weeks. It cost us $10,000. We have been able to lock, the next quote they sent us was also for 10 days. We got them to lock it in with a letter of intent. And so that's where we're sitting at right now.
Good. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same. We did that really quickly for you. And the third item?
The last item is a long-awaited long-term maintenance agreement with MAN for the Rice engines. If you recall, in September of 2021 is when we approved the purchase of the 6 engines from MAN, and as the original equipment manufacturer of those engines, now we are asking for approval for the long-term maintenance agreement that corresponds to all the maintenance services related to the engines, the supply, the parts, any extra work related to operating and making sure that we have proper maintenance for the engines once once they arrive, which the scheduled arrival of the engines is anticipated to be in August of 2023 this year. The effective date of this long-term maintenance agreement would be effective April 3rd upon commission approval. It's essentially a 10-year agreement, and that 10-year date starts at the time which the Rice engines enter into commercial operations, or the commencement date, and all of the completed delivery parts and services for the engines or equipment has been satisfied, or, and again, it's the earlier of, if the parts and services for the engine reach their stipulated performance end date in terms of running hour and maintenance prior to that 10-year term. And each engine has 15,000 run hours over the life of each engine. So that's how that would be calculated. In addition to being able to terminate the agreement for in the event MAN defaults in any reason, one of the important parts of this that we looked at was to make sure that the city had an off-ramp at any time during that 10-year period that we would want to be able to terminate the contract, and that's just to ensure that that long-term maintenance agreement remains competitive pricing during the term of the contract, and it makes economic sense. So for any reason at any point in time during the 10-year term, the city could terminate for convenience upon 180 days prior written notice to MAN, and that would also require us to pay for any services that MAN had rendered up to that point, as well as 50% of the contract fees paid for balance of plant services during a 1-year term. But it gives us that option in the event that we wanted to terminate the contract, that we could. One of the important things, as we go through this, that I want to mention was the importance of making sure that the protections were built into the contract to mitigate risk and liability to the city. So in order to do that, with delivery, we talked a little bit about this when we ordered the engines. With regard to any parts that are coming from MAN, the delivery, MAN will bear all the risk of loss if anything happens during transit once we receive those to the plant site. Once they get to the plant site, we'll be responsible for them. But up until that point, MAN has assumed the loss for anything. And they also are required to have a substantial insurance policy, general liability policy for bodily injury, property damage, in the amount of $5 million for each occurrence, as well as workers' comp comp insurance, employer liability, automobile liability, in accordance with the statutory minimums required by state. And also, in part of this agreement, MAN is going to be required to have a performance bond in effect during the 10-year term of the agreement. And as that is $1 million performance bond per year, so it is required to be annually renewed. So over the term of the contract, we're looking at $10 million total performance bond in place, and that's to ensure that all the services are satisfactory, completed in accordance with the contract terms. As well as making sure if there is any delay, we wanted to incorporate a liquidated damages clause in the contract as well. So in the event that MAN isn't able to cure within a 30-day period, delay beyond a 30-day period, they're required to pay $1,100 for each day of delay, with the total liability for liquidated damages in one contract year capped at 5% of the monthly contract fees that are paid. There's also warranty provisions in the contract that cover the plant parts for the engines, which is an 18-month warranty from the date of delivery, and also then a 12-month warranty for covered plant services on any of those engine parts. And then as well, there's an indemnity provision in the contract that MAN is required to indemnify and hold harmless the city for any claims, damages, losses, property damage, bodily injury, or death, and that would arise from MAN's negligence or any of its subcontractors that it uses as well. To break down the pricing on how the long-term maintenance agreement will work, the total contract price for the equipment, parts, and related services is $12,042,700.98. The values that you'll see in your agenda memo are calculated with the euro equivalent as of March 22nd, 2023. 1 euro equals $1.08 US. As today, I checked the exchange rate, it's actually 0.92 euros to $1. So that's as of today's date. But then the contract fees that are specified in the long-term maintenance agreement, those are locked in valid for 2023. Then there is a subject to an adjustment on a biannual basis on January 1st and July 1st of 2024 and each subsequent year thereafter, based on an escalation provision that's tied to particular indices. With regard to the engines and engine service, again, the maintenance for the engines is based on an estimated 1,500 run hours per engine per year. The parts will be supplied by MAN, and the pricing for those parts, because they're being supplied by MAN and manufactured in Europe, those are actually will be priced in euros, and then the services in turn for the engines, those are priced in US dollars because MAN's maintenance arm that is contained, there's two maintenance academies. One is in Augsburg, Germany, and one is actually located in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So that particular maintenance arm of MAN in Fort Lauderdale is responsible for the North and South American maintenance of any of their engines. So they will be doing that, and that will be charged in US dollars. So the total cost per engine per month totals $4,169.70, and per year that equates to $50,036.40, and over the 10-year contract term for parts and services related to the engines and engine service, that's $3,002,184. In addition to the engine and the engine service parts, we also have the balance of plant provisions. Those are maintenance services for the remainder of the plant. Again, parts, because they're supplied by MAN and manufactured in Europe, that's priced in euros. And then the services will be done by MAN's local, I call it local, Fort Lauderdale maintenance service center called Prime Serve Center, and that's going to be paid in US dollars. And the total per month fee for that is $55,495.23. and the total 10-year contract term is $6,659,427.50. Part of the cost of the long-term maintenance agreement, too, you heard me mention the requirement to have the performance security of $1 million a year performance bond. The city will be charged $20,000 a year, which is part of the overall contract cost, for a total of $200,000 during the 10-year contract term. That's a built-in cost of the long-term maintenance agreement. One of the other things that really doesn't deal with the maintenance part of this, but one of the things that staff looked at was going ahead and ordering the tools and spare parts to have that on site immediately. And part of that decision, the decision was predominantly based on pricing, because the pricing is set to increase in September of this year. So to go ahead and take advantage of the lower cost pricing, we have incorporated the purchase of the initial tools, which is they're all required to properly maintain the engine and the auxiliaries. That includes delivery tooling, but excludes the customs duties. So the total for the initial tools is $244,911.74. Safety spare parts, again, that's $607,788.78. And then the swing part sets that are needed in order when there's downtime on the engines and we need to put parts in the interim while we order new parts, or, the other ones, they're long lead times. That's $1,508,388.96. One of the other thought processes in doing this, looking at this agreement, was to ensure that we had a contingency amount of $1 million that would account for customs, because we will need to have a broker that takes receivership of the items once they come to the States, and that's based on a percentage of the total cost of those parts. And I believe David had said that we're estimating customs for these particular tools and spare parts to be between $20,000 and $30,000. And keeping in mind that $1 million, we hope that will at least be a good starting point for a number of years to take us through any issues with regard to exchange rates that change. And of course, if it's more than that, we would come back to the commission for approval of more than that. But we hope and we anticipate that that's what will cover that. So the total cost for the equipment, covered parts, and services and the contract contingency is $13,042,700.98. Again, the RICE generators are scheduled to be delivered in August of 2023, and we anticipate commercial operation occurring in the fall sometime of 2024. I know I threw a lot of numbers out at you, and there were a lot of dollars. And I know David can talk to all the technical specifics of how this will work, but I just wanted to make sure you had a good overview of how we allocated the risk in the contract and mitigated that for the city. And I want to thank David. We worked long and hard on this, and he's been great. So.
Well, it's very, very complicated. So, and that contract had to be. Yes. Okay. So,
I hope I didn't bore you, but
no. But it's got lots of layers.
Ditto for Ramona.
It's very important.
Yeah.
Well, a couple things that I have a question on is the swing set parts being so much more expensive than the safety spare parts, and what does that really mean?
These are German terms. Safety spare parts are spare parts that when you go to work on your car, oh geez, I need a grease gun, or I need an O-ring, or I need a gasket. That's safety spares. Okay, it's stuff that when you get in the engine, you may not specifically have it laid out that you have to replace it or work on it, but in the process of working on it, you may need that spare part. So these are parts that we're going to have on site that when we go to execute the maintenance, we can make sure that we can completely execute it and we're not held up because of some little stupid part. That's a safety spare.
And the performance bond. I don't know that I understand what that really does.
The performance bond, what we talked about there, and MAN actually had a condition about it. One is it's mandated by law. Florida statute that we have to have a performance bond. So it's basically, since they're providing the engineering support, we're actually supplying the labor to actually do the maintenance. If there was an issue where the engineer told us that we did something wrong on the engine, that's the only time that the performance bond would come in. It's basically on an error on their part. It would protect us for that. To answer the second part of the other question, as far as for the swing set parts, swing set is the term. These are parts. They're basically refurbishable parts. It's not a lot. It is a turbocharger rotor. It is 18 heads for the engine, and it's a couple loop bolt pumps. To make sure you have it. That's what the $1 million are. The problem is with all these here parts is the lead time. Right now, after talking to Gina, the spare parts here will not be funded from the bond money. The only thing that's funded by the bond money for the LTMA is the initial tooling, the $224,000. Everything else is going to be, the program itself will be capital on an annual basis, correct, Gina? And then these here spare parts, they'll actually be purchased and put into stores from our general budget to push them in stores. We have to pay 50% up front to pay for them, and the lead time on these parts are 50 weeks. Okay, so you can imagine if I pull an engine apart and I needed a head, okay, I have an engine down for 50 weeks. Well, this gives me the ability, and we have 6 engines, right? So the very first major inspection I have is at 6,000 hours, which will be somewhere around 4 years. I have to pull 2 heads off and send them off and have them analyzed. Well, I either wait for 6 or 8 weeks for them to get rebuilt before I put that unit back in service. Now it's just taking me 36 weeks to get through all 6 of my engines, or I pull them out of stock, I put the new one on, I move it on, the engine's back, and we recycle
another one.
That's why. And then ultimately, these engines are going to be around for quite some time. When you get to a 24,000-hour overhaul on these here, they require replacement of all the heads at that point. And so this gives us the rotable spares, and we have it. And like Ramona said, MAN has been very open with us. They held prices for us on this LTMA at the rate they gave us last year, and they're waiting to escalate it. I mean, when we approve this, which I'm sure we will, on Monday, I'm going to send out the PO, and if we wait, they're going to raise the prices.
Yeah, and the currency exchange rates are basically locked in on the date we issue the purchase order or an invoice is shipped. So it's a little bit different than what we dealt with the engines, because obviously we were ordering it on a finite date, so we knew we locked into a particular date for that exchange rate, versus here, if we're ordering spare parts somewhere 10 years down we can't just say, as of today, we're going to lock into this exchange rate, because that obviously would be unfair. And not acceptable to MAN at all.
And the 1,500-hour cap on the engines is 4 hours a day.
Yeah, and it's not a cap. That's an estimate from our power marketing group. Initially, when we purchased these engines, they at that time, with what was going on in the power pool, the estimate was somewhere around 3,000 hours a year that we'd operate at. And that LTMA contract was a lot different. We would have came to you, it had a lot more maintenance. The cost of it would have been more. These are based on estimates of what we're going to run them 4 hours a day. We can still run these engines. Very likely they could start 2, maybe 3 times a day. Okay, because we don't take any hits for starts, and it's not. We're limited to 1,500 hours per engine. The program is limited to 90,000 operating hours. If we put them all on 1, 2, and 3, they don't care. We're paying for 90,000 hours of maintenance. As to what's happening, so we can float it that way. Now, the one exception to this is our number 1 engine, which is on the test bed still in France. We're actually going over in May to do the factory acceptance test on it. It has several hundred hours on it already because of the testing that they did. It would be basically net zero for us when we start out from the maintenance standpoint of it, and then it'll fall right into the maintenance schedule.
Yeah, because they're not going to count the hours that are already on it until it's officially in commercial operation, which is important.
Right. So I mean, don't think that we can only run these 1,500 hours, and I don't think that's what you meant. I just want to make sure it's clear to everybody. We don't have a cap. our air permit that we have set up for it will allow us to operate these as we need it. There are limitations on how often we can operate it, but we're far from that, on that amount. The other good thing about the way we structured the contract is, let's say we do run these 3,000 hours, okay, a year. Well, we're going to run out of hours at 5 years. Well, we have that provision to where we renegotiate the contract at that point, because the contract is based upon this is the amount of maintenance you need to do if you run it this amount of hours. And if we go long, let's say we don't run 1,500 hours, we can go the other way too, up to 12 years. Okay, we can extend it out and they'll allow us to extend it so that way we get, only, because we chose two different ways to pay. And if you look at the proposal for the engine maintenance, we're paying for that by hour. So if we don't operate, or if we do operate, we owe. Okay, and then the balance plant basically comes into effect because in order to make these engines quick start and have them to where they're immediately available for us, the lube ball pumps got to run all the time. They'll be jacking the engines over so that way they're ready to start and they can hit the line in that 1 minute like we promised everybody. That's how come that's a monthly charge, because we're going to be running that 8,700 hours a year.
Which runs all the lubricating through the engines all the time and heats the jackets of the engines as well. Correct. All the time, so they're always ready to fire up. Yeah, Commissioner Music.
So when I think about these engines, I think to the only thing I know, which is automobiles, right? So when you go and you buy a truck, it has a warranty, and then you buy the extended warranty. So when we get these things sitting here and they're ready to go, they're on the pad, they're ready to fire up, do they have a warranty for X number of times, and then this is a maintenance that goes after that, or it's because it sounds like that maintenance is initial?
So just like on your trucks that you purchased, just like what you said, yeah, you have a warranty, but you're still responsible to do the routine maintenance. You have to change the oil, you have to do and stuff. So
that's a great definition. Thank you.
So that's what this is. Okay. The warranty period we have has to do with when we go commercial with the engine. They actually issue a certificate to us, and that's when this contract starts. Exactly.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, it has an original parts warranty on it as well.
Absolutely.
So before it starts.
There's a couple of different things in play. Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's good.
Okay, so who's brave enough to make the motion? You are. All right. Dan again. All right.
If I can say, even when we bought the old generators, we always went back to the original manufacturer and got an extended warranty, or we had spare parts from them. So this is not uncharacteristic of what we've done before.
Yes, sir.
And we've moved down the line. This is just a new generation and a new vendor. Well, it's a new vendor. When we did 3, we bought spare parts for 3. And when we bought 5, we did that. So when you go back to the original manufacturer, it's not uncommon. This is just going to be a little bit different because it's a European made versus US made. And is it metric or is it?
Yeah, everything's metric.
Everything would be metric.
So that's why the tooling is so critical. So
if you remember correctly, back in September of 21, when we did the original equipment purchase, we also purchased spare parts and tooling then. This tooling here are gaps that they just want to make sure that we have. So this is the metric dial indicators. This is the metric wrenches that we would have to, go out and buy everything you would need to maintain your metric car that you can think of. Well, obviously, most cars, a 10 millimeter wrench is the most common thing.
Yeah.
These engines, 10 millimeter isn't quite large enough. So this is to make sure that we have exactly what you need. To your point, the project itself, one of the things that our team is working on is, one is we already have the assets inputted. We're already inputting them into Maximo. And so besides putting them in Maximo, what that does for us is any spare parts I buy, we're already setting up bill of materials inside Maximo for these year's spare parts. And as we purchase the equipment and we go out and purchase extra breakers or extra spare parts or something, we're getting them put on the right assets. So that way when the plant gets the engines turned over, they end up with an Axmo system that's there, they end up with a BOM with spare parts and so on. Even if we choose not to purchase a spare part, at least we have the details for the spare part in there so we can order it. Okay, and with the spare parts that you authorized already through the OEM purchase of the engines to start with, plus these spare parts, we will have what we need. I mean, am I going to say that we'll have everything and we have something? Yeah.
But in your swing set spare parts, how many heads will you have?
18, a full set.
Wow.
Yep.
18 heads.
18 heads.
Per engine.
Heads.
20, they're big.
Yeah.
So how many cylinders per engine?
18.
What those have got to be?
So when you think truck, locomotive.
They're massive.
And then, yeah, I mean, what's the diameter?
I need to send you all some pictures.
Actually,
Yeah,
David shared some pictures with me yesterday of our folks out being sent to Germany to train on fixing these, and to see these men, like grown men inside these.
Inside the cylinder standing on a piston.
It was unbelievable.
Inside the crankcase.
Yeah.
Inside the crankcase,
It's unbelievable.
part of the connecting rod.
Yeah, we'd like some.
You don't have any kind of able to visualize that.
Well, 383,000
Scale. What's the torque?
What's the torque on the rod? The rod's the torque on that, man.
No,
Oh, my goodness. Get the D9 in there. Pull it tight.
I know.
380 metric tons, 780,000 pounds an engine.
Wow. And I missed the date. When am I going to France to look at these?
That was May, I heard that.
I just want to clear my calendar. I didn't.
May 15th or May 16th and 17th is when we're going to have the FAT. The week before that, we'll be doing the factory acceptance test for the control system. That'll be actually in Germany. The factory acceptance test is in St. Nazaire, France. So we'll be out.
Mind bike, I cannot wait to see.
Yeah, that's going to be, I got a picture of my dad standing inside a turbine.
Yeah.
Okay.
You get an idea of it.
So any other discussion, questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Thank you. All right, what else do you have to bring us, Mr.
We don't
Becker?
have anything else to bring you this time.
All right, thank you all so much for sharing your time. Is there any other comments any other committee members would like to make or questions to ask?
It's a short meeting. How much money per minute?
We should go back and calculate that. All right, then we're adjourned. Thank you.
Say that I should